Have you ever had a man pursue you with so much intensity that it almost felt unreal? He texts you constantly, tells you how beautiful you are, how he's never met anyone like you, how you make him feel alive again. He makes you feel wanted, seen, desired. Like you're the only woman on earth who truly understands him. His words feel like warmth. His attention feels like proof, and his consistency in those moments feels like safety. And then, out of nowhere, the warmth turns cold. The messages slow down. The energy shifts. The man who once couldn't go an hour without talking to you suddenly goes silent. No explanation. No goodbye. Just silence. You stare at your phone, replaying every word, every interaction, every laugh you shared. You wonder if you said too much, if you were too open, too vulnerable, too available. You start questioning your intuition, and that same intuition that told you this connection was special. You start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Was he ever serious, or worse, was any of it ever real? But let's stop right there, because this moment, that aching silence, isn't about you being too much, too needy, or not enough. His silence is not rejection. It's reflection. It's revealing something about him, not you. In this journey we're about to take, I'm going to pull back the curtain on what's really happening inside a man's mind when he craves you deeply, and then disappears into quiet confusion. Because the truth, the raw, uncomfortable, liberating truth, will shock you. Most women are told to play it cool, to wait, to give him space, to not seem desperate. But what they don't tell you is that the space you give a man with no emotional maturity is the same space he uses to retreat into his own fears, doubts, and emotional avoidance. Silence can be a weapon, but it can also be a signal that he's craving something. But that something might not be you. It might be the way you make him feel. And that distinction right there changes everything. Because here's something most women never realize. A man can crave you deeply and still do absolutely nothing about it. Yes, he can be thinking about you constantly. He can scroll through your messages, look at your pictures, fantasize about you, and still sit there in silence. Because craving is not the same as commitment. And it's definitely not the same as courage. When a man craves you, it activates a powerful emotional high, a dopamine surge that feels intoxicating. He's drawn to your energy, to the way you make him feel admired, alive, validated. But craving isn't rooted in building something real. It's rooted in the experience of desire itself. It's the thrill, not the depth. The fantasy, not the foundation. And this is where many women get hurt. Because what you feel, the chemistry, the connection, the intensity, feels real. It feels mutual. It feels like the start of something meaningful. But for him, that craving might only exist in moments. It comes and goes like a wave driven by emotion, not intention. Craving without action is emotional immaturity in disguise. He might crave your warmth because it numbs his loneliness. He might crave your energy because it fills his emptiness. He might crave your attention because it feeds his ego. But none of that means he's ready for you. Not in the way you deserve. Craving is about him. Action is about you. A man who is emotionally available won't just crave you. He'll choose you. He'll make space for you. He'll take consistent action that aligns with his words. He won't disappear when emotions get real. He'll stay, even when it's uncomfortable. The problem is we confuse craving with love. We mistake intensity for intimacy. We believe that passion equals partnership. And when he pulls away, we internalize his silence as proof that we did something wrong, when really, he was never standing on solid ground to begin with. The truth is, many men were never taught emotional literacy. They were never shown how to sit with their own vulnerability, how to stay when connection feels unfamiliar, how to love without losing control. So when they crave a woman deeply, it wakes something inside them, something that both excites and terrifies them. And if they're not emotionally ready, they retreat. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's exactly what happens here. His silence isn't fate. It's unconscious fear taking the wheel. He's not consciously choosing to hurt you. He's unconsciously avoiding himself. When he goes silent, it's not always rejection. Sometimes it's regression. He retreats to what feels safe. Distance, distraction, detachment. He doesn't know how to stay when emotions deepen, because staying requires him to face himself, his fears, his inadequacies, his longing, his confusion. And here's where your power comes in. His silence is not your signal to chase. It's your signal to observe. Because when a man disappears, he's showing you exactly how he handles pressure, intimacy, and emotional reality. And that information is priceless. It tells you whether he's capable of building something real, or if he's just chasing the emotional high of being desired. So next time a man comes in hot, texting constantly, promising the world, making you feel like you're the center of his universe, pause. Don't get swept away by his words. Watch what he does when things get quiet. Does he stay consistent when life gets real? Does he communicate when emotions rise? Or does he vanish into silence, expecting you to fill in the blanks? Because a man's silence after craving isn't a mystery. It's a message. It's telling you everything you need to know about his emotional capacity, and then your next step isn't to decode him. It's to listen to what that silence is revealing. And when you learn to listen, really listen, you stop reacting, and you start discerning. You stop wondering what you did wrong, and you start realizing that his silence is not a reflection of your worth, but a mirror of his readiness. You are not here to chase explanations. You are here to recognize patterns. And once you do, everything changes, because the silence that once made you anxious will start to make you wise. Because the silence that once made you anxious will start to make you wise. You'll stop seeing his withdrawal as a mystery to solve and start seeing it as a mirror reflecting who he truly is beneath the charm, beneath the words, beneath the surface confidence. Silence strips away illusion. When the noise fades, all that remains is truth. And that truth, while uncomfortable, will always serve your growth. See, men process emotions differently. When they feel something intense, especially something that touches vulnerability, they often retreat, not necessarily because they don't care, but because they don't know how to care in a consistent, connected way. Many have been conditioned to equate vulnerability with weakness, so when emotional intimacy arrives, their defense mechanism is distance. Silence becomes their armor. But here's where the misunderstanding happens. Silence doesn't always mean confusion. Sometimes it's calculated. Sometimes it's a way to regain control. Sometimes it's a coping mechanism built from fear. When a man starts catching deeper feelings, he stands at a crossroads. One path leads to openness, to emotional risk, to the possibility of love. The other leads to safety, to control, to silence. If he's emotionally immature, he'll take the second path every time. Not because he doesn't feel, but because he feels too much and doesn't know what to do with it. He won't say, "I'm scared." He won't say, "I need time to process this." Instead, he'll just go quiet. He'll wait to see what you do. Will you chase? Will you wait? Will you collapse into insecurity? That silence becomes a test, not always consciously, but behaviorally. He's watching whether your self-worth depends on his attention. He's measuring how much control he has, because for some men, control feels safer than connection. But here's the hard truth. A man who values you will never risk losing you through absence. Men know what silence means. They know what it communicates. So when he chooses it, he's making a statement. It might mean, "I want the benefits of your presence without the responsibility." Or, "I'm scared of what I feel, so I'll disappear until the feeling fades." Or worse, "I was never as invested as I led you to believe." Whatever the reason, his silence speaks volumes. The way he handles silence tells you everything about his emotional intelligence. It shows how he manages discomfort, communication, and conflict. A man who goes quiet when things get real is a man still running from his own reflection. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." That's what happens here. His silence isn't about you. It's about the parts of himself he refuses to confront. So when the silence comes, don't chase noise. Tune in to what it's showing you, because silence reveals who's grounded and who's lost. It shows whether his love was rooted in connection or just chemistry. It exposes whether he wants partnership or validation. Silence is clarity if you let it be. Now let's talk about space. When a man says, "I just need space," it sounds reasonable. You want to respect that. You want to show you're not clingy or controlling. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes space isn't about clarity. It's about avoidance. There's a difference between a man who takes time to reflect and a man who uses silence to escape emotional accountability. If you don't learn to spot that difference, you'll keep waiting for men who were never planning to return. Here's how to tell. First, look at the pattern. Does he disappear right after things get deep? After intimacy? After a serious talk? After you start expecting consistency? If his silence only arrives when vulnerability does, that's not reflection. That's retreat. He's not protecting peace. He's dodging depth. Second, look at communication. Does his space come with context or confusion? A man who truly cares will say, "Hey, I'm overwhelmed. I need a couple of days to think." But a man who ghosts without warning and expects you to sit in uncertainty, that's not boundaries. That's emotional neglect. You're not asking too much by wanting clarity. You're asking for respect. Third, pay attention to how he reappears. Does he acknowledge the silence, take responsibility, or does he pretend nothing happened? If he comes back like nothing's wrong, that's not healing. That's manipulation. He's hoping you'll accept inconsistency as normal, so he never has to face his own avoidance. And finally, notice how you feel around him. Do you feel calm, grounded, secure? Or do you feel anxious, uncertain, and off balance? When you're constantly managing your emotions to keep him close, that's not love, that's survival mode. You've become the caretaker of his emotional instability. And survival mode is exactly where emotionally unavailable men want to keep you. Because when you're off balance, you won't question their inconsistency. Real connection doesn't require guessing. It doesn't require decoding silence or chasing clarity. A man who's emotionally available will communicate, not disappear. He won't make you feel like expressing your feelings is a risk. He won't vanish when things get real. So the next time he says he needs space, listen to the pattern, not the promise. Ask yourself one question. Does his space bring me peace or anxiety? Because space that breeds anxiety isn't space. It's avoidance in disguise. And you deserve a love that doesn't vanish into silence the moment it gets real. You deserve someone who welcomes your emotions instead of running from them. Someone who doesn't make you question whether you're too much. Someone who meets you where you are, not where it's comfortable for him to stay. Because emotional maturity isn't measured by how much a man says he cares. It's measured by what he does when caring gets difficult. It's measured by how he handles discomfort, how he communicates when it's messy, and how he stays consistent when he's scared. That's what real connection requires. Not perfection, but courage. If he disappears every time emotions deepen, that's not love. That's avoidance. If he returns only when he wants comfort, that's not affection. That's dependency. And if you keep accepting that pattern, it starts teaching your nervous system to equate uncertainty with connection. But love is not supposed to feel like anxiety. It's supposed to feel like peace. When he retreats, you don't chase. You don't beg for clarity. You don't rewrite yourself to fit into his silence. You pause. You breathe. You watch. Because his behavior is telling you a story. And if you listen closely enough, you'll realize the story isn't about your worth. It's about his readiness. You don't fix it. You face it. You don't fight for attention. You filter for alignment. Because a man who values your presence will never risk losing it through silence. And a man who chooses silence as communication has already told you everything you need to know. Silence doesn't always destroy connection. Sometimes it reveals its truth. And when you stop fearing it, when you stop filling it with explanations and excuses, you'll start hearing your own power in that quiet. You'll realize that your peace has never depended on his consistency. It has always depended on your ability to stay grounded in your worth, even when someone else cannot meet you there. That is emotional mastery. That is your evolution. And that is where real love, the kind that is steady, clear, and mutual, begins. That is emotional mastery. That is your evolution. The moment you stop reacting to silence and start responding with self-awareness, everything changes. You shift from asking, "Why did he pull away?" to asking, "What is this silence trying to teach me?" That single shift turns pain into power. It moves you from confusion to clarity, from emotional dependence to emotional strength. When a man pulls away, it can feel like emotional whiplash. One day he's fully present, texting, calling, making you feel seen. The next he's distant, distracted, and impossible to reach. In that sudden void, your mind starts racing. Did I say something wrong? Did I move too fast? Is he losing interest? Should I reach out or wait? You start chasing closure in a situation that's giving you none. But here's the truth. When he pulls away, it's not your cue to self-abandon. It's your invitation to return to yourself. Emotional grounding is the ability to stay centered no matter what someone else is doing. It's knowing that someone else's silence does not define your worth or dictate your emotional stability. It's staying anchored in who you are even when someone else drifts away. So how do you stay grounded when everything in you wants to react? First, pause before you respond. When your emotions spike, your nervous system screams for resolution. You want to fix it, explain, reconnect, but grounding begins with stillness. Before you send that text, before you replay every word in your head, take a breath. Come back to the present moment. Ask yourself, am I reacting from fear or responding from self-trust? That question is your compass. Second, focus on facts, not fears. Fear says, he's pulling away because I'm not enough. Facts say, he's pulling away and I don't know why. But his actions are not a reflection of my value. You are not responsible for someone else's avoidance. Don't turn silence into a story that attacks your self-worth. Silence is just data. You decide what meaning to attach to it. Third, stay rooted in your rhythm. One of the fastest ways to lose emotional balance is to orbit your life around someone else's behavior. Get back into your routine. Move your body. Connect with people who make you feel seen. Do something that reminds you of your own aliveness. Your world doesn't pause just because he's uncertain. Let him figure out his silence while you stay in motion. Fourth, resist the urge to overcompensate. When someone pulls away, the natural impulse is to lean in harder, to prove your worth, to close the distance, to make them remember what they're losing. But chasing connection while someone is retreating will only drain your power. Let him pull away. Use that space to observe, to realign, to rebuild your emotional center. That's where your strength lies. Not in convincing, but in allowing. And fifth, talk to yourself like someone you love. When he disappears, the voice of self-doubt gets loud. It tells you that you did something wrong, that you should have been quieter, cooler, less available. But grounding yourself means speaking gently to your heart. Remind yourself, I didn't do anything wrong by caring. I didn't fail by being real. And I don't have to shrink just because someone else couldn't handle depth. Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That's what this silence is offering you, a chance to come back home to yourself, to become so rooted in your self-worth that someone else's inconsistency doesn't shake your peace. Because the way someone handles distance reveals their emotional capacity. The way you handle it reveals your maturity. He might retreat into avoidance, but you rise into awareness. You don't mirror his silence. You embody clarity. You don't play games. You hold standards. That is how emotional power expresses itself, not through reaction, but through response. Understand this. You don't need to chase someone to be chosen. You don't need to beg for attention to be valued. And you definitely don't need to interpret someone's distance as a verdict on your worth. When someone pulls away, you let them. Because what's meant for you doesn't need convincing. It needs clarity. When he comes back, you don't pretend nothing happened. You don't hand over access as if his silence had no cost. You observe. Does he take responsibility? Does he communicate honestly? Or does he just slip back into comfort like nothing changed? If he avoids accountability, that's not reconnection. That's repetition. And repetition of pain is not love. It's a pattern asking to be broken. And if he stays distant, if he doesn't return, let him go with grace. You lose nothing by releasing someone who isn't ready for you. In fact, you gain space for what truly aligns with your energy. The love you deserve will never make you question your sanity. It will never thrive on uncertainty. It will communicate, not confuse. It will grow, not vanish. You are not losing when someone leaves. You're being redirected. You're being reminded that love, built on guessing, isn't love. It's anxiety dressed as attachment. And you deserve more than that. Now let's talk about response. High-value communication. Because how you respond in moments of uncertainty defines the tone of every relationship you build. High-value communication isn't about proving your worth. It's about protecting it. It's the art of responding with intention, not panic. When a man starts pulling away, you don't chase. You don't double text. You don't spiral into apology. You pause and observe. If you choose to reach out, your message is calm and grounded, not reactive. You might say, "Hey, I've noticed some distance lately. I value honesty and clarity, so I just want to check in. If you need space, that's okay. Just let me know where you're at." Simple, direct, respectful. It communicates strength, not fear. Then you detach from the outcome. You don't sit by your phone waiting for validation. You go live your life. You send the message and release control, because your peace does not depend on his reply. If he responds with clarity, great. That opens space for dialogue. If he avoids, deflects, or stays silent, that's clarity too. His lack of response is a response. Believe it. And that's the key. You honor the response, even if it's silence, because your power lies in your ability to observe without losing yourself. When you no longer need to beg for communication, you start attracting people who know how to give it. When you stop proving, you start choosing. Emotional maturity doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without losing yourself. It means you can love deeply and still walk away when that love is not reciprocated with respect. It means you can express your needs without fear and accept when someone can't meet them, not as rejection, but as redirection. So the next time a man pulls away, remember, his silence doesn't define you. Your response does. Stand in your calm. Stand in your clarity. Because emotional composure is magnetic. It commands respect without saying a word. And when you hold that level of grounded energy, the right person won't pull away. He'll rise to meet you. Because love, real love, is not found in chasing or confusion. It's found in mutual effort, mutual clarity, mutual peace. And the more grounded you become, the more you'll realize that silence isn't your enemy. It's your filter. It separates what's meant for you from what isn't. It protects you from misalignment. It saves you from wasting your energy on people who aren't ready to receive it. The silence you once feared becomes your ally. Because through it you find yourself again, calm, clear, and unshakably whole. The silence you once feared becomes your ally. Because through it, you rediscover your center. The quiet space where clarity lives. The same silence that once made you anxious now becomes the sound of truth. The pause that allows you to hear your intuition again. You stop waiting for the phone to light up, and you start lighting yourself up from within. That's the moment your power returns. Quietly, steadily, fully. After everything, the craving, the confusion, the silence, there's one truth that stands above all. You deserve clarity. Not sometimes, not when he's ready, now, because your heart was never built to survive on uncertainty. Love was never meant to feel like guessing. It was meant to feel like peace. And peace doesn't arrive when he finally decides to text you back. It begins when you decide you won't settle for less than emotional consistency. It's easy to internalize a man's silence and make it about you. You start to believe maybe you were too expressive, too emotional, too intense. But that's a lie silence teaches you when you don't know your worth. You were never too much. You were just more than he was prepared to handle. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's your superpower. Your openness isn't weakness. It's the mark of someone brave enough to love honestly. The problem isn't your depth. It's his fear of drowning in it. You deserve someone who doesn't flinch when things get real. Someone who doesn't retreat when you open up. Someone who communicates even when it's uncomfortable, because he cares about how his silence might make you feel. Emotional maturity is not a luxury. It's the foundation of genuine connection. It's not too much to ask for. It's the bare minimum for love that lasts. But here's what happens when you've been conditioned to accept less. You start confusing emotional neglect with space. You start mistaking inconsistency for mystery. You start chasing uncertainty because the unknown feels exciting, and safe feels boring. But safe isn't boring. Safe is clarity. Safe is peace. Safe is knowing where you stand. The silence that keeps you guessing isn't Love, it's emotional. Instability masquerading as romance. And you don't heal by decoding someone else's confusion. You heal by deciding you deserve. Communication that doesn't disappear when things get real. You heal by walking away from anyone who teaches you to doubt yourself. You heal by coming home to your own voice, your own rhythm, your own truth. A high-value woman doesn't sit in silence hoping someone will change. She sees the silence for what it is. A boundary, not a challenge. She doesn't chase. She observes. She doesn't shrink. She expands. She doesn't beg for communication. She embodies it. And if someone can't meet her there, she doesn't argue. She exits, gracefully, quietly, powerfully, because she knows peace is expensive, and she's done giving discounts to those who can't afford it. Maybe walking away from someone who once gave you butterflies feels hard. It might even break your heart for a while. But staying in a situation that slowly erodes your self-worth is harder. Butterflies fade. Peace lasts. The love you deserve won't keep you in confusion. It will never make you question your sanity. It will meet you with presence, not puzzles. With effort, not excuses. With consistency, not chaos. So if he's silent, if he's unsure, if he's inconsistent, let him be. Let him figure himself out without you being the emotional anchor for his storms. Because you are not here to fix, to prove, or to earn love through pain. You are here to receive love that is clear, safe, and mutual. You are not an emotional placeholder. You are not a convenience for lonely moments. You are not the warm-up act for someone still, deciding if he's ready for intimacy. You are a woman standing in her fullness, the kind of fullness that no silence can shrink. From this moment forward, you stop chasing confusion. You stop decoding mixed signals. You stop waiting for clarity from people who thrive on keeping you uncertain. Because clarity isn't something you wait for. It's something you create. You create it by holding your standards, by speaking your truth calmly, by honoring what feels right for your spirit. And when someone shows you inconsistency, you don't question it, you believe it. You start choosing differently. You start choosing peace over potential, energy over excuses, action over promises. You start choosing people who choose you back, fully, freely, consistently. Because love that's right for you will never need convincing. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." And that's what this silence is teaching you, to awaken. To stop looking outside yourself for validation, for closure, for meaning. Everything you've been seeking in someone else's attention, you can give to yourself. The love you've been craving, the reassurance, the security, it all begins with you. You awaken when you realize that love doesn't start when someone chooses you. It starts when you choose you. Because the relationship you have with yourself sets the standard for every relationship you'll ever have. When you honor your emotions, when you communicate your boundaries, when you refuse to tolerate inconsistency, you send out a signal. Only those who can match my energy may enter my peace. That is not arrogance. That is self-respect. That is sacred alignment. You don't have to harden to protect yourself. You just have to clarify who you are. You don't have to play games to keep someone interested. You just have to stay grounded in authenticity. The right person won't be scared of your truth. They'll be drawn to it. Because emotional maturity recognizes emotional maturity. So as you stand here at the edge of another silence, I want you to remember this. Silence is not rejection. It's revelation. It reveals truth, alignment, readiness. It shows you who's meant to walk beside you and who's meant to walk away. And when someone chooses absence over effort, let them. Because every time you let go of confusion, you make space for clarity. Every time you stop chasing, you start attracting. Every time you choose peace, you strengthen your power. Say it aloud, let it echo through your being. I release confusion. I release chasing. I release the need to prove my worth. I choose clarity. I choose alignment. I choose me. You are no longer waiting for closure. You are creating it. You are no longer begging to be understood. You are embodying understanding. You are no longer shrinking to fit into someone's uncertainty. You are expanding into your own certainty. The silence that once broke you will now build you. Because silence, when met with awareness, becomes your teacher. It reminds you that love is not something you lose. It's something you live. And the more you live in truth, the less you'll tolerate anything that confuses it. So let him go. Let him stay silent. Let him wrestle with the parts of himself that he's not ready to face. Because you're moving forward. You're stepping into the kind of love that doesn't require decoding, the kind of peace that doesn't depend on anyone else's words. And in that stillness, you'll find what you've been searching for all along. Yourself, whole, worthy, unshakable. That's where real love begins. Not with him, not with the noise, but with you. And as Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Do that. Accept yourself completely. Because when you do, no silence will ever shake you again.